Hey, and
Hey,
we're live.
hey.
Mitch, how you're doing today, brother?
I am doing well today, brother. Thank you so much. Again, always super excited. Actually, when I wake up in the morning, I look forward to this live stream because it's like there's so much goodness and great stuff to share.
I wish my wife feels the same way. Uh, when she, I'm kidding. Uh, no, she definitely she loves waking up next to me every Monday or
For
every day
sure.
rather. But hey, I'm excited for our third episode um, on our field notes from the cephesus Region 2 meeting series. So in the first episode, we talked about cybersecurity and you shared some tips and tricks on how you can really solidify your process and immune yourself to cyber attacks and hacks. And in episode number two, we've talked about the current state of the global supply chain,
Right.
and some of the things that you could do to move to a higher level of predictability in a post-COVID world. And I'm excited today to talk about pricing, which is the lifeblood of every business. Revenue is the lifeblood of every business, and at the core of revenue, at the core of our profitability, is how you approach pricing your services. So, Mitch, why don't you tell us a little bit of how this topic was covered in the cephesus meeting?
Absolutely. So Cefesa conducted a panel discussion
Mm,
moderated by TJ Coker, the Cefesa
mm,
Vice President and Director of
mm,
Operation at Coker Services. And the
mm.
objective for the discussion was to outline what strategies to employ for pricing.
Right,
Pricing is a very it's a balancing act because you want to make sure that you capture every cost that is put
right.
into effect, and then you have to put some profitability. Of course,
Yep,
what drives us is making sure that we have that profitability to reinvest in the business, and also to take home and take care of our families as well as like sort of like our, as business owners is our salary, right? And then
yep.
you don't want it to be too high, of course, that you price yourself out of the league with the competition. So yeah, it was a great discussion, and they surely had a lot of great things to talk about during that panel discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, pricing, and I was researching pricing studies and research before the call. And one study shows that a slight variation, and we're talking about single percentage points,
Uh-huh.
increase or decrease in small variations in pricing can raise or lower your revenue by anywhere from 20 to 50%, which is massive. And despite that, even among Fortune 500 companies, fewer than 5% of Fortune 500 companies have functions or focus dedicating to setting pricing, the best pricing, and do pricing reviews every year. And it's such a missed opportunity. Optimizing your pricing is one of the lowest hanging fruit
Right.
to really improve your profitability and your revenue, especially with inflation going crazy these days. It's key that we consider our pricing. So, with that said,
Yep.
who was on the panel for this discussion, Mitch?
Oh wow, yeah. The panel consisted of industry heavyweights, just like the previous panel. So we had Paul Morrison, president
Mm,
at PwC
right.
Services, Amy Campbell, the COO at Commercial Parts and Services.
Mm,
We had Rusty Park, the director of business development at
Vanco.
Vanco,
Yep.
and we had Wayne Stoutner, who's VP at Unlimited Service
USG.
Group and PT
Yep.
Holdings, part of Partstown.
Yeah. Sounds like an amazing group and mastermind. And maybe just like we did yesterday, Mitch, what are some of your top key takeaway? What's your top key takeaway from each of the ones on the panel? And maybe let's start with Paul.
Yeah, let's start with Paul. Actually, yeah, he said he talked about value, which is something that was
Mm,
like super like straight to the heart. You need to prioritize the value you provide to the customer, and then
Mm.
price according to that. Because a lot of business owners and small business, they focus and concentrate on pricing. It's all pricing this, pricing that, and then this is so I'm going to price myself at a top tier, and then I'm going to deliver a top tier afterwards. So it's
Mm.
an afterthought. Whereas his is more of like, I will deliver top tier, mid tier, and I will price accordingly for that. Because that
Mm.
way, it sets the pace and the cadence and the tone for it. It will not let you lose your competitive advantage. And even if you price, higher, but your value is also higher, your customers will still gravitate towards you and say, oh, they provide me with a great value. So, yeah, you pay premium for it,
That's
so that's really
fantastic.
what
So,
resonated.
so this reminds me of a study on Business Harvard, a Harvard Business
Hmm.
Review, uh, about the good, better, best approach to pricing.
Right.
Where you have three, it's three tiers, right? It's a multi-tiered offering, where you can strip down the product or the service to the good option, and that will help you in acquiring new customers, especially the ones who are more price sensitive. So
Yep.
typically, your good option would be like your, table stake features, that would be, attractive enough to acquire new customers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you have the better option, where you can more like, upsell your existing customers or your happy customers. And then you have the premium, or the best option, where you can increase the spend by customers who want that level one, tier one,
Yeah.
high touch support. So I'll probably drop in the link to the article. In fact, that was the article that had us revise our own pricing
Yeah.
here at Origo. So
It
that's
did sound
fantastic
very
takeaway.
familiar when you said it. Yeah, it sounded familiar. It's like I've seen that as well.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah, so
the-
literally, it was built around that framework shared from the Harvard Business Review. And typically, you want, like, for the good pricing, you want about 20% of your customer base to be on that.
yeah,
For the better, you want about, it depends where, on your profit margins, and how differentiated the value there, but you want probably anywhere from 30 to 50%
uh huh,
of your customers to be at that level. And then for your platinum, right, you want at least 20 to 40% of your customers to be at that level. And you always want to push them up, right? Because
right.
really, where we are mostly differentiated in our service offering is in our best package, right? That's where we can really bring value to our partners. So fantastic takeaway from Paul.
Yeah,
What are
absolutely.
so have a tiered pricing. So what about Amy? What takeaway did you get from Amy?
So Amy talked about understanding who your customers are and what their strategy is. So it's kind of like, think like a customer when
Mm.
you're putting your pricing hat on. So in a way, also familiar with very it resonates very closely to the value proposition that Paul talked about. Amy also talked about that before you price, it's vital to talk to all of the areas of your business that touches the customer base. So you really need to have a good finger on the pulse of the business. So all of that, whether it's like your customer service, your
Mm.
technicians, even your sales teams, your marketing teams, they all have that critical touch point with the customer, and familiarizing yourself with knowing the customer strategy, what's important to them, what jobs
Mm.
need to be done by them. For
Mm.
it will allow you to price accordingly to that. So also kind of ties back into the value. Thing that stood out, or a takeaway that I got from Amy's discussion on the panel, was she also talked about the importance of analytics and setting KPIs when it comes to pricing. So always, price according to data.
Mm.
Look at the analytics, and then also retrospective, and look back and say, okay, is there a need for us to adjust? When do we need to improve on things? Do we need to look at all of those other factors as
Yeah, and take
well?
it down to the customer. And
Yeah,
that makes sense,
absolutely.
right? Like a street customer or a street account, what we call it, in our in some of the verticals that we work in, the way you price your pricing to a street account or as an SMB is very different than how you price and even what you offer to a more strategic account, chain account, tier one account, whatever you want to call it, enterprise account.
Right.
Because the bigger the business, the more customization it requires, and the more you need to deliver.
Yep.
Right, and they typically are the ones who take, the enterprise clients are the ones who typically fall in the better or best pricing and package. So that makes sense. And using analytics, and what are you looking at in your analytics? Like, are you looking at like profit margins and stuff like that?
Yeah, pretty much. Profit margins. You look at, of course, factor in all the cost considerations, and then again, look back and say like when they had a price increase, what was the impact? Did it
Mm,
increase? Not only did it increase the revenue, but did it also, affect,
churn,
yeah, the churn
right?
of the customers, or did
Mm,
did it allow you to attract new customers? And then you're also looking outward at your competition, and like,
mm,
did when I price accordingly, did it drive people away to the competition,
makes sense.
to all of that?
I love it. I love it. That's a great takeaway. Understand who your customer is and price your services accordingly, and use data to kind of validate your hypothesis of whether or not the price increase or decrease or change rather is justified, and what impact it can have on the business. So fantastic. So
Absolutely.
maybe let's move on to Wayne. What takeaways did you get from Wayne?
So Wayne talked about more on the making sure that you do your due diligence when you're pricing, and you
Mm,
need to take every aspect of cost into consideration. And
mm,
this is also something that highly resonates because a lot of new business owners and a lot of even people who are been seasoned, they've always priced because it's based on like what the market is at or what people are willing to pay. But then again, when you look at it, you're leaking revenue because you're not accounting for every cost out there. Sometimes they just think about, okay, this is the tech salary, this is the
mm,
price of going out there, but you have to look into other considerations. Like, for example, what's the time investment that needs to be given to get out there? What's the commitment that I delivered on it? Are these parts on backfill? There are so many different ways to look at things, and you just really need to again get back into the analytics and then ensure that every cost, every granulated aspect is taken into consideration when you price. Because usually when you price, it's one and done, is what he said. It's like I can't say, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna do it for 2,000 per visit. Oh, next week I'm like, oh no, now it's 2,500 per visit, and then people are gonna react. So you gotta like, price changes, people are just super sensitive to price changes. And so just make sure that before you publish it and you go out there, you've already done your research and
yeah.
covered everything.
And this applies a lot when you're also doing warranty work,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And the manufacturer is like paying you a set price, whether it takes you 10 hours or 5 hours or 100 hours. There's a set price or set time. And we had a great conversation with Dan Deibler, where he shared that, out of um, I don't know, 50 manufacturers or something, he was only really profitable or as profitable, only with 20% of the manufacturers, and he has technician shortage. It's like it's not like I can accommodate all the service calls that are coming in. Like, I
Yep.
have to start prioritizing the work we go out on, because there's not enough technicians. There are not enough technicians sent out. So I'm going to start prioritizing work and establish relationship with manufacturers who I know I'm going to be profitable. And my
Right. Yep.
technicians, are crushing their KPIs, right? And the equipment is in line with the expertise and the skill set, and doesn't require me to do a lot of training on. And so you need to take really a data driven approach, like you said, and look at your profitability. You can't just have set pricing set and done, and and really never revisit. You almost need to look at your pricing per customer, and are you profitable or not? and are you profitable or not?
Right.
So that's a fantastic takeaway, Mitch. And last but not least, Rusty. What takeaway did you get from Rusty?
Yeah, Rusty. Rusty, our friend at Vanco. Yeah, so talked about. He said that when you price, his is not looking at the number, but on the delivery, which is also
Mm,
another unique feature that I love from that or took away from it is that when you price, you need to also consider what your commitment is. So, like he said an example, like I would never price my product within the median of the marketplace or the average, and then promise 4 hour, we'll be there in 4 hours after you call for something, because again, it's
mm,
unrealistic. Yeah, you'll at the beginning you'll draw people in and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll take this 4 hour guarantee, and then
mm.
it's unrealistic because
Sounds sexy, but I can't. It's not sustainable.
it's not sustainable. Exactly. So it's you really just again, in the long run it will damage your reputation and it'll damage you as a business. As again, we're here for the medium to long term game, right? We're not, it's not a sprint, it's
Long
always
term,
like
yeah,
a
absolutely,
marathon that we run as far as we're
absolutely. So that's great. To summarize, one, consider tiering your pricing and have a good, better, best options.
Yep.
Two, understand the difference in needs between the different segments that you service. Could be by vertical, could be by size, could be by geo. Three, take into consideration your profitability per customer or per segment, and make sure that you're always keeping an eye out for it. And then four, when adding a new feature or making a new promise, make sure understand the implications of that promise on your ability to deliver and how it impacts your pricing.
Yep.
So those are really the four key takeaways, and I think those are fantastic,
You summed
Mitch.
it
Thank
up.
you
Yeah.
for sharing with us. And were there like any questions from the panel that we could wrap up with here,
Yeah.
that was surfaced?
Actually, yeah, I did have a question for the panel. And spoke up, took the microphone, and said that I wasn't going to sing karaoke because of my Filipino heritage, but and everybody just took that away from it. But I also asked them about if they looked at customer reviews and how those were if there were a factor in pricing.
Mm,
So a little bit partially, customer reviews were not looked at in like a consistent, diligent way.
mm,
So I think that it's a key opportunity for our sector, for our industry in the field services. That yes, you Amy did say that they touch base with the customers, but a lot of these reviews that come in Yelp and Google reviews are also something that businesses need to take their pulse on, and it's also vital because when you look at your reputation and say I'm a 5-star provider and I know it and I have data that kind of
to
like
back it up.
reinforces it, then I can, price according to that value. But they did say that they are self-aware of where they stand in the competition, of how they deliver. And because of that, that's where they price themselves accordingly to still cover all of the costs, still get some profitability, but at the same time remain competitive in the environment.
I love that, and that's a wrap. Mitch,
A wrap, yeah.
super insightful, straight to the point. Really appreciate you bringing forward all the insights that you've gathered from flying to Chicago, sitting through like a few days, connecting with all of the industry leaders, and coming to us on this live to share your insights. And in our next episode, which is happening tomorrow at 9 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be talking about technician hiring and retention strategies. So make sure to follow me, follow Mitch on LinkedIn so you don't miss out. And I'll see you in the same place at the same time tomorrow. God bless and thank you
God
so
bless.
much. And until then, make today great. Thank you.
Thank you, Yassine. Thank you. All right.